Personally, I think this episode's probably one of my favorite episodes that they've done so far, even though we only got 4 of them total. For some reason, not necessarily because of the action scenes or anything along those lines, it just feels definitely like, oh, obviously every episode of this series is more like just realizing how, to not take everything for granted and just go with life and, appreciate things. But this one just feels a little different and special to me personally, at least. But before we delve more into that type of topic and everything, let's discuss this episode from the start. So we start off with Frieren and Fern in the this different city, and they're about to go, get some like shopping and supplies done and everything. And Fern is in charge of like food, water, and daily essentials, and Frieren is going to do, her thing, and of course, Fern does not trust Frieren very much to do this because she's making this face that she always ends up making when, she's about to do something kind of, not necessarily drastic, but just really stupid because, it's Frieren, and she gives some definitely good examples. Like she buys this potion that's like, does absolutely nothing worth a shit. She buys this huge skull, and then she bought this like magic history book, which she at least admits that isn't a waste of time. But however, she hasn't even read the damn book yet, so it's like one of those things where it's like she's giving you something to like train in your magic, and you just kind of neglected it, which comes like later on, not necessarily to fruition, but just it comes back up again. It's not something that's just dropped and forgotten about, which is kind of neat to itself. But Frieren, they split up. Frieren goes away, and of course, like I said, Fern does not trust her. She starts doing this like stalker maneuver thing where she's following her to see what the heck she's doing without the day. And the first thing she does is she stops at this like crafts like jewelry-esque stand and decides to start looking, but looks very confused because at the same time, besides her like hair accessories and her earrings, she doesn't really have any jewelry. So it's kind of confusing and not really knowing what the heck is going on. However, but lets her do her thing because she even admits to herself that Frieren doesn't really have much stuff. So I'll let her at least try that. But then, she gets something, boxed it up, gets distracted by this little cat that gets in the way of everything, and then off to the next place. So she goes away and she's walking and she runs into some guy, pretty much just asking if there's any place that sells really good sweets in town. The guy tells her, that there's a tavern in the base, and there's a basement inside this tavern, and that you should go check it and try asking there because they probably know where to get some good sweets. And so, of course, as being a creepy spy to figure out what the heck is going on she's confused and pondering why the heck, Frieren's looking for sweets. It's not like they have a lot of money to go along with that, with their travel funds. So she follows her down, and it looks like this whole like group of just ruffians and like baddies and like people that just don't seem like they would know where the heck sweets are. But Frieren still asks anyways, and the guy's kind of like question at first, like that tough guy act, like do you know where you are? And it's kind of neat. The guy's got like a little pink mohawk going on, and the bartender's got like this huge scar across his face, and it's just the little details of the characters that I really do enjoy about this series so far, especially the facial designs and the way that they make the movements and gestures. It's kind of really cool. But of course, after the tough guy act's kind of done, they get to the point where they're talking about how they could recommend her to tons of places because, well, sugar gives those guys energies to adventure, and that's exactly like the complete opposite of what you thought was going to happen. It's freaking awesome. But she gets her information out, and she's starting to leave, and then Fern realizes that she hasn't even done her shopping yet. It's almost freaking, nightfall. The sky's getting pink and everything. And so she starts to hurry up and rush to do her shopping. And she gets it done and comes back. And she's obviously quite late. And, she has to explain to the Frieren what the heck she was doing and everything. And so she puts all her groceries down, or, essential supplies that she bought, onto the bed. And, Frieren asks if she wants something sweet to eat. And, of course, she obliges and knows everything that's going to happen because she was, clearly stalking, but doesn't know to what extent or what the treat is. So we get to this nice, like, cafe-esque place with desserts. And, Frieren's checking it out, talking about how amazing it looks. And it's no wonder that they recommended it. And that's something I think is really just awesome, that she just, there's a lot of things that she's picking up on and almost like relating to humanity with, the regrets of not getting to know those guys after 10 years on that adventure to defeat the Demon King. She's starting to take in small things without even really realizing it. And Fern has been kind of, getting her onto that without even her kind of realizing it. It's really neat. They kind of build off of each other, and to that aspect, I really appreciate that. But she wonders how Frieren's been able to save up for this, and she tells her, pretty much that she's been putting money away secretly so that they could do something like this. And so they get to order dessert, and, they're wondering what they're going to get. And, Frieren doesn't even know what she's going to get. But, Fern, knows that she wants to get merkur pudding, or however the heck you pronounce that. And the only reason she really knows is because she pays attention, which gets Frieren into a flashback to the whole gang sitting at the table. And Himmel's pretty much doing the same thing, and pretty much guesses exactly, what Fern guesses. And Frieren doesn't know how exactly he knows that per se, but Himmel's going along the lines of, we've been traveling together for years, I pay attention, everybody else pays attention. And sadly, Frieren even admits that she doesn't know any of their favorite things, except for the fact that maybe Heiter is an alcoholic. But he wants to make it and try harder so that she understands and picks up on the things that he likes himself. And when she admits that she knows that Himmel likes booze, and the priest starts laughing and smiling, and everybody's like, it's not exactly a good thing that she knows that that's like something you really like. But we get back to the regular day, and Frieren gives Fern her gift that she got at the jewelry place, because it's her birthday. And Frieren, after all these years, knows it's her birthday, and that's something that she remembers, which is something that she hadn't done in the past, And she ends up giving her this hair ornament, and she admits that she doesn't know exactly what Fern really wants as a gift, even after traveling with her for all these years. But Fern knows that she tried, and that she appreciates that, even if she remembered her birthday. And it's slow and surely, really cute and quaint and just absolutely adorable. But they go off pretty much to their next journey right after that. And they head out, and, Fern's, talking about how, age and appearance wise, how, she's 16 now, and she looks like she could be, Frieren's older sister. And Frieren, checks out Fern's body, and she's, her tits are a little bigger than her own. She's questioning all of that, and the fact that that their diets are the same, so that can't be it, and she just can't really sadly pick it up. But it's pretty freaking hilarious when they do that. And they give this nice little comparison of these little rocks on the ground. It's absolutely funny. But right after that, we get to doing some training with Frieren and Fern, and she's trying to teach her about defensive spells and casting and everything like that. And to the extent of the fact that Fern has been doing more defensive spells, but she's good at it. However, she overdoes it, and we come to find out that defensive casting actually drains a lot more mana from you. So it's something that you want to try to concentrate to an extent so that you're not draining everything out of your system. However, she tries to test it and see if Fern has kind of picked up on that. And while she has, not to the exact extent that I guess, that she needs, but she does a really good job at it nonetheless. And pretty much right after that, we get to this point that, she says, if you can narrow it down to like your exact location, that's like the best way to do it, which I could imagine it's extremely hard, especially guessing where exactly the magic's going to hit. However, it does increase your chance of survival, as she says. And so she talks more about, some of the history of everything. And it becomes apparent that Fern has not read the history book. And she tells her she's going to have to read it to her at bedtime because she's not clearly reading it. And she says that she'll start reading it herself, even though we all know that's BS. And so we get to this village that they were trying to head to from the start of this trip from after we left that city. And she asks, Frieren if they're going for a little spell or anything. And of course, that's not what they are doing this time. This time, it's a little different. We run into this old man with a hat and a little mustache, and they instantly know who she is and why she is there in the first place. And at some point, you're like, that's kind of weird how that works out. And while they're getting up to there, we get kind of the backstory of why and who this guy is, Qual. And it turns out he's like this old sage of corruption that worked for the Demon King. And he just was like throwing atrocities everywhere. And you just see this one still of him with the background of flames and everything. And it looks just totally badass. Like, clearly this guy was a force to be reckoned with 80 years ago when they went on this trip. And we find out also that the seal that they cast on him is also about to break, and that's why Frieren came there to make sure that they can defeat him this time. And then she kind of wants to know how in the world, he kind of knew about that. And we come to find out that Himmel had visited the town every year until about 30 years ago when he ended up, passing away. And obviously, maybe he didn't know that, but obviously Frieren knows that and probably updates him on the matter. But we find out he was calling Frieren heartless for not really visiting him and, not checking up on him. But he did have the heart to say that, she's not so heartless that she just lead the village to this, this terrible fate. And to that aspect, it was totally right. He wasn't wrong, because Himmel knew Frieren better than Frieren knew herself, in my opinion. But we get up to the statue, and not the statue, I guess, just the sealed Qual, and he just looks just massive, just a massive beast, right? And Frieren knows, okay, it's been a long day. Let's go back. Let's get some sleep, and we'll take care of this tomorrow. I swear, because the seal, when she goes to check on it, is actually quite weakened. Like, it's definitely about ready to collapse at any time. It almost looks like he's just covered in cement. Which are stone, you know what I mean? So I could see how that, for 80 years, that's pretty impressive. Who knows how long it held up for, or supposed to hold up for, I'm assuming, just a guess, maybe like 100 years. And, Fern's asking what happened and why they didn't exactly take him down all that time ago. And she explains to her, like, he was just too strong, because I guess at the time in history when this happened, this is just kind of like an example of how humanity takes their time to develop things, because they have a shorter time and they take their time seriously, which is like kind of the message on later on here. But he developed the first like piercing spell, which was called Zoltrak, and it just pretty much like wiped out defensive spells and magic armor. And we come statistically to find out that it killed like 40% of adventurers and 70% of mages, which is just insanity if you really think about those statistics. Like, that's extremely powerful. Like, holy crap. But like, she goes to talking about how Fern wants to know how it was so powerful and what the hell they did to, like, even counteract that and everything. And, Fern, frickin' Frieren goes back, like, you really haven't read the history, Tom, have you? Because obviously it's been 80 years since that happened, and like a lot of things have updated and everything. But I digress, because we'll get into that in a little bit. But clearly she hasn't read her history book to know about this. So it's pretty freaking hilarious. But the next day comes faster than you know it, and we are there with Qual, and she takes him out of that stone, and instantly he wants to know how long it's been. And we could just see a size comparison right off the bat. And he's like both those two on top of each other times 2. So he's freaking ginormous and just looks sinister and BA. But, even she says, that we've figured out, ways to stop you, and like you can't like misjudge, because like she casts her defensive spell when he goes to knock one of his Zoltar spells at her, and blocks it right away, right? And even Fern realizes that that's just, like a regular offensive spell at this point in time. And even freaking Frieren goes to explain to both of them, that, his magic was too powerful at the time. And so, they studied the spell, and within like a few years, they pretty much had a magic system to stop it, and they put it in armors, and they freaking learned the defensive spells, and now pretty much his spell is pretty much just an ordinary offensive spell. So he's pretty much been like knocked down a few pegs, and so she tells him that if he doesn't, resist, that she'll just take him out like that, but within like 10 seconds, this man like figures out how defensive magic works, and the fact that it like drains your mana real quick, like, so he freaking goes and he starts just like knocking out, like shooting beams left and right. But Frieren, reminds her of her practice and how she should, hit the certain angles and block all of them, and she does a fantastic job, and this scene looks really, really good, like really good. And right after, frickin' Fern's just taking the chance to make time and block all this magic so that Frieren can do her thing, Frieren flies up without him even noticing and casts his spell onto him and just kills him, just vanishes into thin air. Like, that just shows how much, like, this 80-year time gap did. You know what I mean? Like, back then when there was 4 of them, they couldn't do anything, and now it's just Frieren and Fern, and they have taken care of him in like seconds, right? We get back to the village. Everybody's happy that, she's taking care of the matter, and Frieren realizes that she recognizes the hat on the old man, and she remembers that he's the little effer that freaking flipped up her skirt back in the day and got to see the whole view. And Himmel, being, the guy he is really mad about this, because that's something he's been trying to see this whole time, is her butt. Like, it's absolutely freaking comical. Like, that's one thing I do love about this show, even without, like, the sorrow and the realization and the learning and everything, it still has a way to freaking be hilarious and funny and, laugh at itself, and I really appreciate that. But after the realization hits, he thanks her and freaking, be it for the whole village to be able to live longer. And he comes to say, that he's glad that he trusted Himmel, and that, his word was right. And obviously, Himmel had so much faith in Frieren. It was absolutely adorable. But even Fern said, while they're leaving on the cart in the village, that, that the people of the village, trusted her and thanked her. But, she's like, no, I don't think so. I think it is mostly just Himmel that, believed in me, which is absolutely freaking amazing, and just a realization. And we see Frieren kind of smiling and laughing and patting Fern on the head, and, she doesn't realize why, Frieren's smiling, but it's just a matter of, like, wow, she's helping me grow and figure things out, which is absolutely adorable. I love it. And then at the end of the scene, we see them wagging away, and we don't get exactly a time gap of how long it's been or anything. And if anybody knows this answer, let me know down in the comments. But there's that like straw hat with the same blue band on, like, I don't know if it's a tombstone or an offer. I don't know what it is, but it's on there, and it looks like the old man. So I don't know if they were there for a while, or if the old man died recently after that, or I don't know what the heck happened. But something happens, and that's the end of the episode. So, yeah, no, it's an extremely solid episode, and I really, really love it. And the small, like, realizational growth and loss, just everything in every episode is so good. I'm really excited we get to talk about this show for the next, 24 weeks or 23 weeks, depending. I don't know how they're going to do that, if that counts as the first 4, which would be my assumption, so 20 more. But, anywho, yeah, let me know what you guys think of this episode down in the comments, because I think this one's probably one of the best so far, even though the next one that we will be discussing was also a really, really, really good one that I really appreciate and get a little more backstory and lore, which is really cool. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for this episode. I know this season I'm going to be covering 4 or 5 of them. I kind of talked about this one so far and Crimson Regna, or Regna Crimson already a little bit. And then I want to do Goblin Slayer and Eminence in the Shadow, because those ones are freaking amazing. So those will be coming up soon. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. It means a lot to me. And if you really enjoyed it, you want to keep up with this, hit that subscribe button. That also means a lot to me as well. So with that being said, that's all I got for you guys. And this has been Squids, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.